Most small business owners don't fail because of a lack of passion. They fail because they're running blind. I'm Mark Andersen, and I help small business owners make data-driven decisions using the information from their accounting records. My mission is simple. I want to make a dent in the small business failure rate by teaching you how to use your finances to make better decisions. Welcome to Business on the Run. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Business on the Run. I am here today with Lisa Martinez Heitman. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for
Thanks
having
for
me.
joining us today.
I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, me too. I love it because you and I are in the same realm, and I can't. Tell me about the just kind of how you got started in business. I guess kind of your resume in a few minutes.
Well, do you want the entrepreneurial piece or the accounting piece?
Let's
there's
start
two
at
elements
the beginning.
there. The beginning. Okay, we're
and then
going
you
way
can
back.
tell me how you got to where you are today.
So I grew up in a Hispanic household, and we grew up in a kind of a less financially secure environment, a neighborhood. And as is traditional with Hispanic households, on the weekends, the men are outside, they're barbecuing, the kids are running around, the women are inside the house. And so my uncles and cousins and, father, grandfather, and them, they'd be out there. And they started with, hey, can you run and go get me a drink? Or can you go get me a beer? Or can you go get the tongs or whatever they needed? And I was like, hey, 50 cents, $1. And so as the night wore on and they maybe drank a little bit more, as it would progress, my prices would increase. And so at a very early age, I started learning about what it meant to have a service-oriented business and to be an entrepreneur. But then I took it a step further. Again, typical of Hispanic families, we got together also on Sunday mornings and went to church, and we would go to what they call the pulga, the flea market. And so I would buy supplies while I was at the flea market, because this is back in the 80s, and I would buy the supplies to make friendship bracelets and the little slap bracelets. And then I'd take them to school on Monday. So I'd take my earnings from the weekend, go and buy the supplies, take them to school on Monday, Tuesday, take orders, go up and make the bracelets, and then I would sell them at school. And so that was kind of the beginning of my entrepreneurial spirit.
Cool.
And that kind of progressed over the years. I mean, businesses got bigger. I went to babysitting. I went to making pot holders and would sell them around the neighborhood. And that kind of sowed some seeds early on. And then my first real job, I had a job working in a deli, but my first real job was owned by a gentleman that owned 6 different McDonald's locations.
Oh, okay.
And he had asked the area supervisor, hey, do you have somebody here? I was working the line at McDonald's. I think I'd been there 2 or 3 months. Do you have somebody here that has a little bit more snap and, might be good working in the office? And she says, I've got the perfect person for you. So at 17 years old, I started my first accounting job.
Oh, wow.
And it started out with me just doing some filing. And then the main lady that was working there had been terminated. And he asked me, hey, do you think you understand enough of what she did? And I said, oh, yeah, I've been watching her. I've been helping her. I would sit down and write out checks. And, you remember the old check books that had 3 checks in it. You tear it away,
Yeah.
And so that was my first exposure to a general ledger. And we're talking the old books that you flopped out, and so you hand wrote everything. So I developed an understanding of a general ledger very early on, and went to college for nursing, and then decided, okay, this is really not the direction I want to go. And so then I got a cosmetology license, and again, was in an entrepreneurial environment where I had to, run business, had to know the numbers, had to understand how to handle my own books, and it just kind of grew from there. So that then led me, being in a salon, I didn't have insurance benefits, and I was a single parent at that point. So I made the decision that I needed to go back to school. So went back to school and started in business admin, decided I really didn't like that. Then got a degree in, behavioral science and psychology, which had nothing to do with numbers. But I had a skill set in numbers. I just understood them.
Yeah.
And so as time progressed, every position I took, and I kept climbing the ladder. I might work at a company for a year to 2 years, and then I'd go, okay, I've learned everything I can here. There's no forward trajectory or upward trajectory. So I moved on to the next company, and I just kept building and building and building until I landed working for a state institution, and really promoted, numerous times through that, and ended up at the SBDC here in Houston.
Okay.
And worked there for a while, and decided I really kind of wanted to go a different direction. By this point in time, I'm near retirement age. If you're working for the state, it's great. You retire early. And I took about 7 months, floundered around for a bit, and I've always had a side business. I've always had a side hustle.
Yeah.
And so after about 7 months, I thought, okay, I'm sitting home, I'm gaining weight, and I'm making money, but what do I really want to do? And so I took a contract job just doing some cleanup work and some payroll work, and discovered that there were some forensic accounting type needs there, and spoke to the owner, and that really kind of launched me into a very different trajectory. And so when I was wrapping up that project, in 1 week's time, I received 3 phone calls from friends that were either, one of them was a CFO and 2 of them were business owners. And they said, we really need your unique skill set. Can you come aboard and help us? Okay, sure, why not? I mean, never didn't have any contracts, just did it on, a handshake deal, and did that for a while, and then realized, okay, wait a minute. I'm doing this as a DBA. This is all pass-through money. I'm not structuring this as well as I could. I know better, but it all kind of happened so fast. And so then I finally formed an LLC and said, okay, we need to look at whether or not I'm at a level where I need to convert this to an S Corp. What do I need to do to maximize my tax benefits? And so before I knew it, here we are a very short period of time later. There are 8 of us on the team. We're now going to be onboarding our 9th person. And so we're growing. We're growing quick, and I love it. I love the space that we operate in.
Give us the name of the business.
It's Little by Little Solutions. We're based in Alvin, Texas.
That's a great philosophy, though, little by little, because I don't know. I'm working on a little something it's not a side project. I mean, in a sense it is, but it's for a course. And one of the things that I mentioned in there is that what if you could just make one little change every single month with your business to become more profitable, or
Absolutely.
drive better value, or increase your cash flows? I mean, just one thing. By the time you get to the end of the year, now all of a sudden you've got 12 things, right?
Right.
The passage of time and the implementation of just a little bit every single
all those
month.
small changes make big differences.
It adds
at the
up.
end.
Yeah, it adds up.
I really, to be honest with you, I prayed about what was the right direction to go with the company. What was God calling me into? And that scripture, he who gathers little by little, just popped in my head, and I thought, that's what this is about. This is about making intentional and deliberate adjustments and growing intentionally, and doing it without, everybody sees all these influencers on TikTok and all these things, and they see this rapid growth.
Sure.
And I'm sure that's great. That works for a lot of people, and I'm not opposed to that in the least. But I've also found, and I see this a lot in my businesses, I'm sure you do as well, sometimes you grow faster than your infrastructure can support.
Yes.
And so we've really stepped into that space with an intentional mindset of let's do a complete review of everything that your business is doing, from a compliance perspective, from your accounting perspective, your HR, everything. Let's look at it, and let's make little tweaks here and there to ensure that no one wants to be in an orange jumpsuit.
Yeah.
So we just step into spaces and help and make sure that doesn't happen.
Yeah, I mean, I've had clients come to me and ask some pretty interesting things that they wanted to run through the business, and it's like, yeah, we can't do that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you have to, and sometimes they don't like it, and I don't know if I can. I know I do have so we don't actually do taxes. I don't know. Do you guys do taxes?
No, but we do partner with a wonderful CPA.
We do too. We have some. But anyway, one of the tax professionals that I have a relationship with was telling me he described like a half dozen, not a half dozen, probably three different examples where he's simply trying to keep them tax compliant and not deducting stuff that they shouldn't, keep them out of jail, so to speak, right? Yep. He ended up losing them as clients because they didn't like the outcome tax-wise because of those deductions that he wanted, or they wanted. And I'm like, wow, I mean, that can be, and good for him for not, you can't let him do that stuff, right? I mean, even at the risk of losing a client, you've got to do the right thing there.
That's funny. I had a conversation like that with a client this morning because it happens.
Yeah.
But what a lot of people don't realize is there are ways to maximize, you know this,
Sure.
There are ways to maximize your deductions while still being legal. This is one of the conversations I had with a client recently. You can go ahead and you can hire your child, but your child has to have a job description. They have to have done their I-9. They have to have filled out their application. You have to literally treat them the way that you would any other employee. But if you're giving them a salary and they tuck that salary into a savings account and you use that money to then go on your vacation rather than trying to put your vacation on your company, You're stepping into a space that's actually legal. Let's do this the right way. Let's follow compliance.
Yeah, they're rendering some sort of services.
Exactly. I mean, I don't care if they're in an office shredding, the documents that need to be shredded. They have to literally be working for the company. You can't just put it on paper.
Yeah.
And so getting people to understand that there are ways to do this and to do it the right way is a challenge in itself, as you well know.
Oh, sure. So how long have you guys been around now?
So the business actually, I've been crunching numbers for 35 years now, but the business is we just hit our 1 year anniversary.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I went from the DBA to the LLC, and
congratulations.
Yeah,
That's amazing.
Yeah,
Okay.
and from me being a one man or one woman show, to being 8 of us on the team, I feel like we've really been blessed.
So, what kind of metrics are you looking at for your people? Do you mind describing, I guess, kind of the makeup of your team? I mean, do you have an admin? What does the makeup of the team look like?
So I have 2 administrative assistants. Okay. And I know that kind of seems crazy for a company our size, but I just listened to one of your previous podcasts. I know you understand this.
Sure.
I look at everything from an ROI perspective.
Yes.
If I could be billing this at $100 to $150 an hour, why am I doing a $20 an hour job?
Yeah.
And so I make a
buy
point.
back your time.
Exactly. I make a point of sitting down and identifying, okay, what tasks are things that really can be handled by somebody else. And we have a very different pricing model and different structure entirely internally than you probably have seen. Going back to your initial question, we'll get to that in a minute. But the initial question, there are 2 people that are admins. Both of them are developing bookkeeping skills. Mm-hmm. One of them actually has an HDFS degree, so she's, again, more in like a psychology-based environment. And then the other one has a business admin degree. And the reason those 2 people were chosen on my team is because we often step into spaces where we're navigating emotions and feelings. Mm-hmm. And so I can teach you numbers. I can't teach you how to deal with people. It's either there or it isn't. And so oftentimes when you're telling business owners, hey, you can't do this, or you're between a husband and a wife who are disagreeing, you have to navigate that space too. So we step into a counseling space at all different levels. If they're navigating interpersonal difficulties with team members, we step into that space. Yeah. When I say that we're cradle to grave, I mean we literally handle everything from you've got an idea in your head and you want to form your LLC, you need your EIN, all the way on to you've been in business for 35 years, you're a $55 million a year company, and you're looking to exit. Mm-hmm. All the compliance in between, just everything. So the 2 admins kind of work in this weird space of a little bit of accounting, but predominantly just keeping me in line. Yeah. Hey, Lisa, you've got a meeting with Mark at 10, get out of here, kind of thing. They really are the backbone because they keep all of us running. Yeah. Then the rest of the team are all just various different skill sets. I've got one lady on the team who is a paralegal and does APAR. I've got another lady on the team who has been doing different grant accounting and state accounting, so she understands to some degree nonprofit and endowments and all that. I've got another lady who she just does like receipts and just putting receipts in and making sure everything gets matched up. One of my other team members, and she's kind of my right hand. Yeah. She started with me early on, and she's the one that does the closeouts when you're doing close and balance sheets because maybe you've got a company that merged. She did a lot of Fortune 500 level accounting. Oh wow. We're both kind of same mindset in terms of GAAP, we know how to navigate it. But she's really the expert when it comes to the balance sheet and the P&L. Okay. When I have to, I'll call her and say, I'm trying to wrap my brain around what this client did, and I have to talk it through with her. And that happens sometimes because some of the creative things that they try to do, you're like, okay, wait, how am I going to make this work on your on your GL? But so yeah, I've got a fantastic team. So it sounds like you've got a little bit of a different division of labor, I think. Mm-hmm. Then I know it's different than what I do. I mean, I assign clients to my team members, and basically there's a bookkeeper and an accountant that's doing the work. And my bookkeeper, we really invest a tremendous amount of time training the bookkeeper level so that we can make sure that, so that we can push as much work as we possibly can down to that level, right? For the sake of being fair price-wise, efficiency, that sort of thing, profitability too, of course. But you've got it divided up really kind of in terms of activities, right? Yep. So that's pretty interesting. So the reason we've gone to that model, and I do have some clients that are specifically assigned to one person, and that's the only person that touches their account is that individual. But that's our easier clients. Mm-hmm. We have some clients that have some really complex accounting. Sure. And so as a result of that, I kind of cherry pick who gets what. Like I've got one client that she specializes in all of our multi-state, all of our payroll. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to say client, I meant team member. Mm-hmm. One team member who she specifically handles payroll related and reconciliation because that's her niche, which she's really, really good at. And then I've got one client or one team member who specifically handles everything that's related to the P&L, the balance sheet. She does most of the forensic accounting. And we step into spaces that I'm sure you guys do the same, where it's a major cleanup job. You take somebody on who hasn't touched their books in 3 years. They just found out they're a forfeited existence. And that's one of the things that we encounter often is some of these small business owners, they don't know what they need to be doing on the compliance end. And so I literally had a conversation with a lady that came out to quote our roof work and, some work at my house. And in the course of the conversation, I said to her, well, hey, how's your company structured? What's going on? And she said, oh, I tried to get a job recently and I found out we're a forfeited existence. And I hear that all the time.
Oh, my.
And I've got another client who we recently onboarded where she said, I know I need to be doing something with my taxes, but I'm not getting anything in the mail. I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing. What's going on? I said, well, get me over your EIN, get me over your operating, your formation docs. Get me all over your formation docs. And I said, you're a forfeited existence. And she goes, how'd that happen? I said, well, when you set this up using a local attorney who set himself as the RA, never sent her the first document, set her up and then forgot about her.
Yeah.
And so now we're trying to get her documentation from him. She doesn't even have all of her formation docs. And so she never filed her PIR, her public information report. So what happens? You don't exist anymore. And you've been operating for almost 3 years now without that. And they just don't know.
Yeah.
They go to LegalZoom.
Yeah.
They sign up for their subscription. They get, their corporate records. And then they don't know what to do beyond that.
Yeah.
So we step into that space and we guide them. But in terms of how the team is set up, I'm the only one right now that's handling compliance. And that's got to stop because, again, like what we talked about, before we were on air, ROI. Why am I doing sales tax? Why am I filing a PIR when I can have an admin doing that?
Yeah.
Which is why, as I mentioned, the new hire that we're bringing on, the 9th person who's joining the team, is going to be compliance heavy. I need somebody who knows how to navigate the comptroller and the Secretary of State and Texas Workforce Commission and even OSHA.
Yeah.
Because we step into that environment as well.
Wow,
So
amazing.
I can't do it all.
$55 million in annual revenue, right? So that's very different than what we do. I describe my avatar, I won't go through the whole thing, but basically from 0 to about 2.5 million. So we kind of stay in a much, much smaller space. Can you just tell me a little bit about what your, just at a high level, what your client makeup looks like in terms of industry, revenue, and that sort of thing?
We're kind of spread out everywhere, but we have a couple of niches. We've really fallen into like the home services industry.
Okay.
And we've got quite a few clients that are in the garage door space and kind of it was one led to word of mouth, and it just kind of grew from there. And then we're also heavily in recycled metals and metal brokerage and staffing.
Okay.
But we have a guy that's in woodworks. We've got electrical. They do commercial electrical. We've got an RV park. I mean, we've got a very vast makeup of clients.
Yeah.
But we also have clients that one of our clients, his annual revenue, he just started his company last year, was $2,000.
Yeah.
So we're everything from you don't have a QuickBooks. You've got a bunch of receipts in your email that you have no clue what to do with.
Yeah.
And bless his heart, this poor client. But he's filed his taxes and didn't realize that he needed to communicate, hey, I've got a business.
Yeah.
So this is passed through because you should be treating yourself as a 1099. Yeah, so it's a mess. But, we step in those spaces and we help them clean it up.
I tell people we specialize in messes.
We do.
And yeah, you guys definitely do too. That's actually the part that I really enjoy.
Me too.
Is really kind of unwinding. In my background I used to be an auditor. And man, and again, maybe that's why I'm in more of a smaller space too, because I really enjoyed the smaller clients, right? Even some of the ones where I did the entire audit myself, right? And those are kind of far and few between because most businesses that are that small don't really require an audit. Maybe it's a review or even a compilation, right? So it was very, very fun to do those audits because I got to see every piece of it, right? And anyway, so I've always enjoyed the project nature of audits.
Same.
But yeah, so when it comes to that and we get to the routine monthly part, it's just not as fun because there's no more messes to unwind, right? So tell me a little about the metrics that you might use to manage the team. Do y'all have KPIs for your
Not
team?
Not yet. We're still a year in, and I have to often remind myself I can't treat us like we're a 3-year company or a 5-year company when we're still a 1-year company.
Right.
It's crazy that we step into these other spaces, building out and creating their infrastructure, and helping them establish their KPI and helping them even establish their HR protocols and what their performance evaluations are going to look like when we don't even have those things in place in our own house. Which is, I hate to admit that on the air, but it's just the God's honest truth.
Sure.
But kind of that metric. So that when I said that we have a very different model than what you typically see is we do sliding scale billing. And that's atypical. But I can't charge the person who comes in with $200 or $2,000 worth of revenue last year, who's a brand new startup, $85 to $150 an hour.
Yeah.
So we start them out. We kind of look at we look at their P&L and their balance sheet, or at least the numbers that we've put together for them. And so when we structure their contracts, we do it according to what theirs are, what their numbers indicate. So that client may be billing at $40 an hour to start.
Okay.
But I reach out to my team and I say, okay, here's the deal. This is the person. This is what's going on. Here are their numbers. Let's make a decision if this is a team or this is a client that you want to support. And do you know there's not a single person on my team that says, no, I only want the $100 to $150 an hour clients.
Yeah.
They just jump in and they do it. I mean, when I say I've got an amazing team, I do. So in terms of KPI, nothing right now.
Okay.
It's really me just looking at it. I can tell you there's a mistake I made early on. Having been in a state institution and seeing kind of the way their HR models worked, and then having been with the SBDC and having an opportunity to see what it looks like from the business side, because I've been in all the different areas. I've been at the bottom, I've been at the top. So being in all those different positions and looking at how businesses are structured and looking at how pay scales worked, I made an error early on, but I made it intentionally. I made a decision that I never wanted my employees to feel like they were not appreciated, that they weren't well compensated. So I kept my margin very small, which was great when we were a smaller team. But now that we're growing and we're needing to build out our infrastructure more, things that had to change. And so I sat down with the team recently and I said, look, here's where we are, and I need to restructure your pay scale. And again, not a one of the team members said, okay, I've got a problem with that. They all hung in there. So right now we're in this weird kind of transition phase where we're reworking contracts with some of our clients because now the clients have grown. As they've been able to scale, it's allowed us to scale.
Sure.
And so we're just kind of tweaking and changing things up.
Yeah.
So, but that was a mistake early on.
How do you determine price though? If you don't mind.
It depends. I'll be honest with you. It depends. I mean, it really just depends on the client and what they can afford.
I mean, so it's just a matter of affordability.
Yes.
Okay. Interesting.
Yes.
Okay.
And this is going to sound even more crazy, and you're going to be shocked when I say this. I have sent contracts out with a blank because we don't do flat rate billing. We do hourly. And I've sent contracts out with a blank and said, just pray about it, and whatever you decide on, this is the range.
You fill in the blank.
You fill in the blank.
Okay.
And every one of those clients has come back with an acceptable range.
Sure.
We operate from a very prayer-driven position. Let God work it out, and He does.
Of course. So tell me a little about that, because I tell you, Jesus Christ is Lord and Savior. I mean, that's just the end of the story as far as I'm concerned. So tell me a little about your faith and how it drives your business.
I grew up in church, obviously, and didn't really, this funny part about this is I didn't really accept Jesus until I was a freshman in college. I mean, I accepted Him at 15, but I still kind of had those nagging doubts in the back of my head in that as a kid, you're taught to pray, and so I'd be praying, okay, if you're up there. But in freshman anatomy, just looking at the design of the human body and the intricacies and how just one thing being out of balance had such an impact, I looked at it and thought, okay, looking at this, there's no way that we are not a product of intelligent design.
Exactly.
And if we're not a product of intelligent design, then what religion makes the most sense? Christianity. Okay, well, if Christianity makes the most sense, then I'm sold. I tell people this all the time, but this is the best analogy I can think of. I've watched my life evolve. I've watched my skill set and my knowledge and abilities evolve. And I think of it a lot like my grandson. I bought him one of those floor mats, that have the city on it with the little streets. And so he'd take his Hot Wheels and his little micro machines and he would drive them down the street. And I thought, that is so indicative of what I've seen in my own path and how God has positioned me from a job where I remember working for a CPA firm, making like $25 an hour in the 90s and thinking I was high cotton back then, because I was a young kid working in a CPA firm. And so watching how he took the skill set there, and then when that contract ended, moved me to another position that was higher level, higher paying. And then the next position that was higher level, higher paying. And every transition, and there was one instance where I got laid off. I was the accounting manager for an industrial environmental cleaning company. That layoff kind of hit me tough, but I was talking to one of my professors because I was still taking classes at that time. And he said, why don't you just come work for the school? Well, you'll be able to take classes here on campus, and we'll be able to provide you with desktop copies of your books. You'll be able to use your wellness in your lunchtime and take classes. You're a single mom. It'll work out great. Why don't you do this? And I took a huge pay cut to do that. Mm-hmm. But that also allowed me to finish my second associates. And then that trajectory is what put me in U of H, which put me on my second bachelor's. And they paid my tuition. And, so I was able to, every step of the way, like that little Hot Wheel, it was like God was just kind of pushing me into the next step.
Yeah.
And so when I left U of H, I guess it was in 22, I think. I thought, okay, I'm ready. I'm ready to retire. What do I want to do? And I just kept feeling this tug in my spirit. You really have a gift that you need to be using. And so I was talking to my pastor, and they made me the community coordinator, and I was out in the community and just helping people and just encouraging them. And I thought, you're not fully utilizing your skill set. God wouldn't have given you these talents and abilities. Because, I don't know how to say this other than to say, I've just got this weird kind of brain that I can see 15 million things happening at once. This little ADHD brain where somebody comes to me and they go, hey, here's the budget and here's the contract that goes with this budget. And I'm looking at it going, you forgot to add this and this and this into your budget according to your contract. Yeah. And they're like, how did you notice that? It's just that supernatural knowledge. I don't know how I do it. I just do.
Yeah.
And so it's allowed me to operate at a level that I see things that other people don't often see.
I describe it a little bit differently because it's like, I'll walk into a business, like let's say this space right here, right? Mm-hmm. And I start thinking about all the assets that should be capitalized. Mm-hmm. How are, what impact, who are the revenue drivers? Or maybe it's not even a who, maybe it's a what, if it's a retail store, for mm-hmm. example, right? So those are all of the kind of things that are running through my head when it comes to the accounting. But it is interesting.
Do you feel like you can shut it off? Because
no.
I can't.
I stopped even trying.
I can't.
I just kind of listen to it, and every once in a while I can get very, very focused, almost on no matter what the task is, mm-hmm. or it could be something that's on television or something. I just am immersed in whatever it is. And sometimes it takes my wife hitting me in the back of the head with a 2x4 to get my attention, because I get that focused on something. She'll be speaking to me and I'm, What? Yeah.
So you look at your computer and realize you've been sitting in front of it for 16 hours and you never took a break?
Yeah.
I have those days.
Pretty much. So it's amazing. Let me ask you another question, and maybe you've done this a little bit differently. What are some of the things that you're looking at inside your business to help you make the decisions on the next hire?
Really based on need.
Yeah.
I've kind of come to the mentality that about every time we onboard about two more clients, we really need to make another hire.
Oh, wow.
And here's the thing, because again, my business model is very different. So we have full-time people and we have part-time people.
Okay.
And our part-time people are usually single moms or moms whose husbands are working crazy schedules, and so they have to be present. And so we've built our model very much around moms and that's not to say we wouldn't hire a guy.
Sure.
We're not closing that door, but we're built around moms who the majority of the team goes and drops their kid off at school, clocks in, 8:30 or so. By the time they get done, have their coffee in hand, and then they're working until 3 o'clock, 3:30 until they've got to go pick kids up.
Yeah.
And then they're back on the computer that evening. So we're sometimes working at 10 o'clock at night. There was a deadline. We had a client that merged not too long ago, and me and one of the other single moms, she put her son to bed, did her thing, and then we were on the computer probably until 11 or 12 o'clock at night. And then she got up and went to work the next day. But that's just how we do it, because it creates a space again for them to pay for the kid in college, pay for the private school that they're in, and pay for cheerleading and all the extra things. And so it's really, it's been a wonderful God-driven model, to give them, because so many of the women that I encountered, and I early on, I had a woman say, I want to get back into the workforce. I don't know how to do it, and I don't feel like I really have any skills. And I said, hold on, wait it. You've got 7 kids. A lot of our kids are adopted. You've got 7 children at home. You've been balancing your own budget. You've been creating schedules. You've been shuffling kids back and forth. You've been coordinating everything. You've been doing everything. Guess what? You'd be a great executive assistant.
Yeah.
You just need to tweak a couple skills here and there, and we can help you along with that.
Yeah.
And put that on your resume.
Yeah.
Because it is a tangible skill.
Sure it is.
And they don't understand how, I have people all the time that like post on like Talk of Alvin or these different Facebook groups. They'll talk about how I'm looking for a job and I've been, I'm having difficulty finding a job. I'm like, hey, this is not my business. I don't help people with resumes and everything, but go ahead and send me your resume and I'll give you a couple of pointers and help you out. Mm-hmm. And don't just go apply on Indeed because you're in an applicant pool that is massive. I've been on the other side of what hiring looks like.
Yeah.
Go directly out to the website of that company and apply directly through their website. So we see what we do, the team as a whole sees what we do as a ministry. And so every aspect of what we do is geared towards helping people improve their own lives, improve their businesses, serve and serve well. Mm-hmm. And so we're just in this crazy little world of space.
So are you guys all remote?
Yes.
All right. Yeah. So we are too. So
mm-hmm.
it works out really, really well.
We're on site a lot though.
Okay.
We are on site.
And when you say on site, you mean at the client's?
At the client's location.
And y'all just go
mm-hmm.
whole team rushing in, huh?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay.
Or if we've got a client, and so again, not only do we have a great team, but we have great clients. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So if I picked up the phone right now and said, hey, I need to have a team meeting, can I pop over to this client's location and use your conference room? Mm-hmm. They're like, come on,
Yeah.
But we've just as often, it was funny, I've got 7 grandkids. So we've got a huge, dining room table. And so we were piled around the dining room table. Or we've, met at, there's a crepe place that we like over off of Bay Area Boulevard. And we'll go meet over there and we'll just, do what we need to do. And so.
Yeah, we do some similar things. I mean, we all work remotely. We meet weekly at my place mm-hmm. To do like a team meeting, trainings, that sort of thing, mm-hmm. Onboard new staff. And then every once in a while, we'll go over to Stella's Fresh Brunch. I don't know if you know where that is.
No, I don't.
It's at Dixie Farm in 518, right across from the catty corner from the Walmart.
Oh, I'm gonna have to check that out.
So yeah, it's really good. So every once in a while, probably once a month or so, we will just kind of. I wouldn't say we forget about the team meeting that week, but we started off with breakfast mm-hmm. and try to make a point of not talking any business at all. At least the business talk never comes from me. I try to make a point of not talking business during our on-site breakfasts like that. And
so you have the breakfast without it being surrounding or around business at all.
Right. I wait until we get home. To my place,
mm-hmm.
right? So after breakfast, we'll usually start a little later at my place than we normally would. So that's kind of how we run our meetings. But it's really cool that you guys do that.
We're women. We start out talking. So, it's just how it works.
Well, yeah, and I've got a couple of gals on my team, and they're pretty talkative, but if it wasn't for the ladies, there'd be no talk at all, right? So I welcome it.
So how many are on your team?
I've got 5.
Mm-hmm.
5. Sometimes I forget to include myself, so I have to really kind of think about that.
So there's a total of 6 of you.
Yeah. So we just have a good time.
What's your favorite part of what you do?
I did a podcast or not a podcast, but a post that I'm going to post later, where this day of the month mm-hmm. where I get to record this podcast is literally my favorite day, and basically what I said was, I love my job and I love my life. I love everything about it. But for some reason, I just get so much joy and pleasure out of talking to people like you and other small business owners. Because one of the reasons is, not only is it fun, but in every single meeting, every single podcast episode, I learn something new.
I knew you were going to say that because I'm the same way. Every business we walk into.
Yeah, everybody's experiences are different, and since everybody's experiences are different, you may be talking about the same thing, but they're going to add a little twist to it mm-hmm. that you had never ever thought of before, mm-hmm. and that to me is so enlightening. It's almost like reading a book for the second or third or I even would say 20th time in some cases, where it's like, holy cow, I've read this book 20 times and I never noticed this before. And so it's kind of like that,
The funny part about it is, if you'd asked me 3 years ago if I knew anything about ferrous and non-ferrous metals, or if I knew anything about, garage door springs or any of the different industries that we've worked with our clients, I wouldn't have had a clue.
Yeah.
And so people ask me, well, how do you know so much about this or that? And I was like, I've just encountered clients that have had to explain their business. Because if you have an understanding of how their business operates from the mechanical side and from, all the minutia, that then translates to, okay, wait, this doesn't need to be coded this way. It needs to be coded this way. I talk to a lot of bookkeepers. I belong to a lot of different small business groups and bookkeeping groups. And I've been hearing a lot of buzz about, well, I'm so worried about AI. And I told them, I said, I'm not.
I'm not either.
And they say, why? And I said, because here's the thing. If the AI that I've encountered, and we use it, but if the AI I've encountered thus far is indicative of how it's going to be maybe coding your expenses, it's making too many mistakes. It's still not a model that I trust.
Well, and here's the example that I use, just kind of at a high level, right? Small business owner goes down to Home Depot. They make a $2,000 purchase.
Yep. I know where you're going.
Does AI know whether or not that's cost of sales, a repair and maintenance item that should be sitting in SG&A, or is it a capital expenditure? It can't tell. It will never be able to tell. So that's one of the reasons that I'm not worried about it.
I tell people that all the time, or I hear people saying, "Oh, well, these the firms that they're using that are overseas, and they're concerned about that." And
I stopped using them long ago.
I haven't, and I won't, because here again, and I know this probably doesn't come across as well as it should, but it's just the God's honest truth. Is I feel like I need to take care of the people that are at home. My goal and my purpose is to create a space where women and families can work and earn a living and support their families, and that starts with us not going overseas.
Couldn't
too many
agree
mistakes.
More. Yeah,
too many mistakes.
And here's the other thing too. And this may be a little bit more on the selfish side of things, but when you've employed them. You get to direct their work activities. Do this when I tell you to do this, sort of thing. Where you hire some contractor that's in India, they're going to get to it when they get to it.
Right.
So I even when I had like a small need, I tried one, and this is probably 5-6 years ago. I was not happy at all, and I even had someone called me not too long ago. They cold called me. And they were trying to sell me on their services. And one of the questions that I asked them immediately was, because I knew it would get me off the hook with them. I knew I had zero intention of hiring them anyway. But my question was, are you guys based in the U.S.? And because I could tell she was speaking with an Indian accent. Nothing at all against Indian people. Don't get me wrong. That's not the issue, right? If they were here in the U.S., I'd hire them in a heartbeat, as long as they could communicate well with my people. I've actually had clients ask me specifically, is your team based here? And I am proud to say that is a 100% yes.
Yep.
Sure, maybe we pay a little bit more and we sacrifice a little bit of profit, but I would say that we benefit by better reputation and a number of other things. I mean, they're half a world away, meaning they're probably 10, 12, 14 hours difference between us. So when it comes to client interactions, our clients are based here, at least in the continental U.S., right? And, they will be able to communicate with us on normal hours and not have to wait till somebody wakes up on the other side of the world.
I'm curious to know what sort of program. I mean, I know that you're heavy into QuickBooks, and we're the same way. We're predominantly QuickBooks. But I'm curious to see what other integrations you're seeing with QuickBooks that you like, or your clients are using, or you're seeing as a successful option.
Well, we use AI a lot, but I guess we use rules within QuickBooks, and we're very sparing about those rules, though, too, right? It's like I mentioned Stella's earlier, right? Okay. If I see Stella's come across as a description in the bank ID or the banking description, right? The bank feed. We'll go ahead and do those sorts of transactions and automatically code it to meals and entertainment, or because we know no matter how much it might be or
it's always going to be categorized the same.
It's always going to be categorized the same. But I tell my team, it's like, look, if there's ever any question about its potential for categorization, don't set up a rule. Because I want us to look at it, right? I would say I'm a little bit leery of some of the third-party applications because sometimes they don't gel very well with QuickBooks.
A lot of it has to do with your mapping, though, because like Gusto, Jobber, Service Titan are some of the ones that our clients are using. And as long as it's well mapped, but let me tell you a mistake that I did encounter. So at one point in time, one of my clients was using like an accounting email address, and I had access to it. And when I stopped, because we were just growing so much, I couldn't monitor it at the same level I was. The wife of the business owner took it over, and she was kind of doing it. And she had disconnected, I guess she disconnected the email address or had made a change to it or whatever, and it disconnected the integration. And she didn't realize when she did that it completely reset everything.
Yeah.
So I tell people all the time, be real careful in making changes if you have integrations, because some of those to sit down and remap every line to the GL, especially like your payroll related ones, when you've got a lot of different fringes, it's a nightmare.
Yeah.
So just be mindful of whoever the admin is that set it up. That email address needs to stay, the integrity of it needs to stay intact.
So you're bringing up an interesting question, and I'd love to know the answer to this is, how do you manage some of those communications? Does everybody email directly to clients as needed with their own email addresses? Because you mentioned
Yes
kind of
and no.
the shared inbox there first. So I'm curious what you guys do.
So we've at the onset, this is going to sound kind of silly, but this was in the very beginning. What I was doing is I was actually setting up. This is when it was just me, and I had multiple clients. I had set up different Gmail accounts. This goes to show the evolution.
Sure.
I had set up different Gmail accounts, different Chrome accounts rather, with a different Gmail, and each client was using that one. And so when I would sit down to work on the task for the day for that client, I'd go out to the one Chrome account. I'd have all of their shortcuts there, all the passwords already saved in there. I'd have all of their everything went into the Google Drive, and it was all for each client.
Yeah.
And then that just got to be too much to navigate.
Yeah.
So then I looked at a different model, and I looked at different programs, and what we landed on was SharePoint.
Okay.
And so the way we have it set up is we have different groups for each client. We've got, and I'd love to show you how we're doing this and see how you're doing it, because I'd be curious to see how it works for you. The client has access to their portal. They can drop any documents in. There's a section for them to tap, for client questions or requests. They go in and put it in. They tag the team member. All the team members' names and email addresses are on the side. All their documents are there. So maybe if they're at the bank and they're opening a new account or something and they need their EIN, boom, they've got it on the SharePoint on their phone. They forward it. They've got access. We keep a notebook. So let's go back and let's talk about what this looks like for onboarding for us. So the first client, the client comes in, we have our preliminary conversation. And when I feel like they're ready to sign their engagement, I reach out to one of my admins and I say, hey, go ahead and set up their SharePoint. The bare bones of their SharePoint has a compliance calendar, so that we make sure that everything's on there and we get notifications. It has a group email box that everybody has access to. It has a notebook. So I go through and I voice to text to AI. Here's the context of the meeting that I had, the intake meeting. I give it all my notes. It goes in and organizes everything. I paste it in there so that any team member that comes along and works on any aspect of this client knows, okay, well, this is, at any time they make XYZ purchase, it's this. Anytime they do this. So they've kind of got a guideline. So anyone on our team, God forbid anything happens to any one of us, but anyone on our team can step in and knows exactly what's going on.
Naturally, the next question I have in my head is, do you guys have documented processes for all of the work you're doing for clients?
Yeah, we have SOPs for about, that's a lie. We have probably 75 to 80% of it's documented. We're still building out those SOPs.
Yeah. I've got a dashboard that we use. It's internally designed where we have we talked about KPIs earlier, right? So that's literally the first page of our dashboard is all of the KPIs at an individual basis. And underneath, it's got a list of all of our clients with the economics on those jobs so that we can review those. And not only economics, but also like timeliness. So those are a couple of the factors that we're always looking at too. And on the timeliness, there's a little bit of a caveat, because I'm sure you experience this from time to time too. Clients don't always cooperate with you in terms of giving you what you need. So, because I've got our bonus structure set up in such a way where timeliness is a big factor, right? Basically, the bell curve. I use what's called the rule of 72s. It's like if you are you familiar with that?
No, I'm not.
So essentially, if you take 1 divided by, is it 72 or 78? I forget. If you take the number, if you count from 1 to 12 and you add it all up, I believe that's 78. It's rule of 78s. Anyway.
I'll Google it.
But you do 1 divided by 78, and that's the amount that you would deduct from the bonus. And then the next number naturally is 2. So you do 2 plus 1, and that's a new percentage divided by the 78. And that number goes up very, very rapidly. So to make a long story short, the the more late they are with clients, the more is deducted from their paychecks.
See,
right?
ours is performance driven.
Yeah.
You know, you've got your specific deadlines.
Well, that's performance, though.
Yeah, it is. But ours is performance driven in the sense of, okay, this person is assigned to these 4 clients' payroll. This person is assigned to these 4 clients' payroll, plus they're this and this and this. And if they know their deadlines, as long as they meet their deadlines, they don't ever hear from me. I mean, you're good. I mean, we're not going to talk about it. But if they want to work 80 hours over a 2-week cycle, great. If they want to work 120 hours over a 2-week cycle, great. Some of my people are employees, some of my people are contractors. And the only thing that kind of puts me in a little weird FLSA position is because I am so particular about client data, they are using my computers or the company's computers because I have to be able to remote wipe.
Yeah.
If that gets lost or stolen, I have to be able to remote wipe. But other than that, I mean, they have the freedom that as long as they're meeting their deadlines, the more clients' books that they touch, the more their pay increases.
Yeah,
And so,
I do a similar thing. It's basically I base it on gross profit. That's the base, but I do use that that timing. I mean, as long as they're on time, they get their full bonus, you know, and that's the way that works.
I'm just curious, how does the bonus? I mean, in terms of incentivizing them, what is that? How would you come up with that model, or what? Why did you?
So I base it off of the individual's gross profit is the baseline for the bonus.
Okay, got it.
Okay, and the reason that I use gross profit is if there's for some reason or another we have to write off
a bad debt.
Right. If we're pretty, I mean, I always kind of look at it from this perspective with clients is it truly additional work that was outside the scope of our monthly engagement letter, right? Like they bought 6 new trucks and new debt for every truck, and we never experienced, I'm going to bill extra for that, right?
Are you flat rate or hourly?
It's kind of a combination. I've got some that I tell them it's like, you know, we just do a flat rate, and then others I do estimate because a lot of our clients, they want to know what the monthly fees are going to be. So I give them an idea of what that is, and if we do overruns or if we're consistently over, I'll go back and I'll say, hey, listen, we've been with you guys for a while now. We've tried to get this thing to here, but it's here, right? And that's where we've got to be. And anyway, but getting back to the bonus and how it's structured is, or the way that we do the write-offs, I just, again, it goes back to fairness, right? And if we did additional work that wasn't expected or intended, it was totally out of scope, right? We will bill additional for that. Lisa, one last question. If somebody is looking to do business with you guys, how can they get in touch with you?
So our website is www.littlebylittlesolutions.com. We also have a Facebook group. My number is 281-455-2205. They just go ahead and shoot us an email, a text message, whatever, and we have a preliminary meeting and go from there.
That wraps up another episode of Business on the Run. You can find us on YouTube at Business on the Run, and you can also find us on Spotify, Apple, and Amazon podcasts. So thanks so much. We'll see you in the next episode.